Are you ready? Let's go! I know, we noticed that slight imperfection in the video, but we are not here for a Hollywood production, but for a stellar product and the best cacio pepe. I remember when I first started coding in Node.js. It was many years ago. It was back in 2011. And Node was just at its beginning. It was super cool. I was attracted by the simplicity, ease of development, speed, and especially it was an extremely fun technology to use. I remember building my first applications, my first framework, and then growing to evolving the use of this phenomenal technology to the enterprise, to large-scale applications. And we all have been there. We all have faced the challenges, and we struggle with the headaches of running Node in enterprise. For example, we're all coming from Java or .NET, where everything was made easy by the application server, right? JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere, and IIS in .NET. That was making everything super easy. But we jumped into a new technology where multithreading was replaced by a single process asynchronous. It was beautiful, so simple, so elegant. And it's all simplicity. There was the high sophistication of this brand new technology. But simple doesn't really mean just easy to use. And all this complexity were what we faced once that we had to put it at a large scale. I still remember the time that we put Node for the first time into a Docker container. It was like a match made in heaven. Let's admit it. Single process, beautiful. But then you need more. Then you jump into Kubernetes, and then you jump into the cloud, and the complexity just became exponential. We moved then to use Node to build a so-called isomorphic application. That was the power of using JavaScript, both for the backend and the frontend. And so we slowly evolved into use it as a platform, as the foundation to build modern server-side render application. But as we grew this application, the complexity clearly followed. And more headaches were actually added to the day-to-day of every single developer. And then microservices. Node seems to be the perfect technology for that. A simple process to handle a simple microservice. And Docker was the perfect glue to that. But as we saw some time ago, time has changed. And slowly we realized that all this distribution, all this separation of concern was actually creating way more problems than bringing advantages to the modern agile teams. Coordination has always been a major challenge. And so, as we already announced a long time ago and we saw, the composable monolith slowly took over microservices. Performance, security, and compliance, clearly extremely complicated problems to solve. If you add that all this knowledge requires high-skilled people to solve these problems. Imagine in an agile environment, the environment of the modern enterprise, the environment that we see in any microservices or modern front-end organization. All these teams are changing something in their application, and something that they change impacts another application. How to know it, how to prevent it, how to remove this headache from these teams. All these problems need a simple solution. And the inspiration for us came from our beloved cacio e pepe. Simplicity is at the essence of this traditional Italian dish. But the sophistication is in finding the perfect balance between these simple elements. And in order to do that, we need a secret ingredient. Don't worry, I will tell you also the secret ingredient for your cacio pepe, but just at the end. For now, let's look what is the secret ingredient that Platformatic is giving to the modern Node.js for enterprise. We started this journey 2 years ago by building the Platformatic open source toolkit, a foundation used by many organizations and downloaded more than 3 million times last month. We are incredibly happy that this positive adoption took us basically where we are today. But something was still missing, the secret ingredient. So we started by adding multithreading to Node.js. And this is a breakthrough functionality that allowed us to take a little bit of a journey back in the history, going back to the roots where it came from. And I mentioned at the beginning that the power of Java and .NET was basically in that application server. So we asked ourselves, can we do that? And clearly we did. So I'm extremely happy today to announce what the modern application server for Node.js in enterprise, a foundational piece both for the local development, standalone deployment, and Kubernetes deployment. The power of what is incredible. Imagine the same thing that you could do a long time ago with your application server, you can do today with Node. You can take an application and automatically it's going to run multithreaded. You can run this composable monolith at the ease of utilizing the power of what to run it as a single unit of deployment. I think it's incredible. It simplified massively the whole bundling, the whole creation of these applications. But we didn't stop there. We took it one step forward. I mentioned at the beginning that part of this journey, this evolutionary journey that Node went through since its inception, was to accelerate and facilitate the so-called isomorphic application. And a little bit of a nostalgic look at it takes me to the old Java and JSP or ASP.NET at the old time of .NET 2.0. And that's incredible, right? Where we came today, but especially it's incredible the massive journey that front-end application have gone through and where they came. Modern frameworks are extremely powerful, but still a little bit complicated for enterprise to manage them, and especially to manage them at scale with multiple development teams. What will simplify the management of Node server-side render front-end application? Imagine having your React server-side rendering, Next, Vue, any framework, and it will work. And that's the first step that we took in this revolution. Our inspiration came from the famous Walt, the creator of the steam engine, and the moment of ignition of the great industrial revolution. So, what for us is representing this new Node.js evolution, the new area of Node.js in enterprise. What will provide the foundation to many functionalities that are needed by any modern enterprise application. Imagine out-of-the-box logging, tracing, monitoring. But we didn't just stop there. We are building a foundation for a composable, stackable system. What is needed for the modern enterprise to grow without introducing more complexity, more operational overhead, but especially without having to add more headaches to developers. And this is what the beginning of a new era for Node.js in enterprise. But we just mentioned that the complexity is when we try to scale it across the multiple teams in these organizations. Back in June, we launched the Intelligent Command Center, an overlay on top of Kubernetes that allows to manage all these applications in an easy and intuitive way. Imagine like being in the control tower of an airport or in any command center of a shuttle launch. And that's exactly what we wanted to build. We wanted to build a single point for developers and operators to be able to have an overview and operate all these applications. But just not that, because it was not enough. Developers and operators need tools that allow to streamline day-to-day processes. Remember, we want to remove headaches. And I mentioned earlier, the biggest headache is when we have multiple teams cooperating in the same application, designed as a distributed system, but having to operate as a single application to the user. I make a change, impacts another team, and most of the time, when we know it, it's way too late. We needed to find a solution for that. Last year in September, we white paper a breakthrough algorithm to detect and evaluate the risk of change in a microservices environment, more generically in a distributed system. But modern applications, they're not just microservices. They're also databases and dependencies. So I'm extremely happy to announce that we extended the functionality of our risk engine. And we went beyond just services and APIs, and we went to databases. So now when we make a change in a database schema, automatically we can detect the impact to the dependence applications. I think it's phenomenal. I wish I had it when I was coding. In addition to that, the Intelligent Command Center provides an easy way for developers to have an out-of-the-box, immediate preview environment for each PR or merge request that they make, allowing, for example, mobile teams and web teams to test all those changes right away. Another phenomenal feature. Now, if you think of the risk engine plus the preview environment combined together, you have an extremely powerful tool that is going to power modern enterprise to scale safely, accelerating, but especially removing friction and headaches to developers and operators. When we build these large systems, one of the most challenging things is to have an overview of on how all these pieces they combine together, how they're gluing together, how they blend. And so commonly we call it a taxonomy. But as we make changes, this taxonomy is always generative, right? It grows, it evolves. It's a really organic thing that grows together with the software, the applications, but especially the organization itself. The Intelligent Command Center provides an easy way to automatically generate a taxonomy overview from all applications, being monolithical, being microservices, especially using real-time data. So we leverage the power of OpenTelemetry to compose live data, a live taxonomy of the environment. I think it's phenomenal. I remember the days that I spent with a paper and my favorite instrument, a pen, writing down the names of all services and how they were connected. It was a nightmare. Definitely a lot of headaches to try to make something that really made sense, not just for myself, but for everyone else in my team and in the organization. The Intelligent Command Center is the perfect companion to run Node.js in enterprise, especially leveraging Kubernetes. Let me take a small step back into the cloud evolution. We went from Docker to more distributed Docker with Docker Swarm, and then we went into Kubernetes. How can we manage these generic containerized applications in the world of elastic clusters? Because we were entering the journey of the cloud. Now, many things change, right? But Kubernetes evolved. It's a beautiful tool. I personally think it's extremely elegant way to solve this scalability problem. However, Node has different requirements. And most of the time, Kubernetes takes care of basic metrics that make sense for those cluster nodes to scale and tell the orchestrator to how to orchestrate resources. Node has, like I said, different requirements, a different context. Imagine a microservice or a web service has a different requirements or metrics or even behaviors than, for example, a server-side rendering application. So how can we actually make sure that when these applications run in Kubernetes, the autoscaler can efficiently scale all these applications, making the best use of the resources available? What we are launching today is another step forward in the evolution of Node in enterprise, especially when we look at how can we utilize cloud, on-prem, any sort of hardware resource to its best. So we are launching the intelligent autoscaler for Node.js. The best way to run Node in a Kubernetes cluster, making sure that resources are taken care of. We are taking the metrics that they really matter to Node, given the context of that application, and we do it through what? Through our application server. And we instrument the Kubernetes autoscaler to scale exactly how it should for the type of application that are run. Personally, I wish I had it many years ago, because building it by myself or with my team has always been another headache. Today, we are not only pushing forward Node, but we are building a new chapter in the evolution of Node in enterprise. Last but not least, security and compliance. And we all know that Node isn't helped with the dependencies. We all have been there, and we all have been through the headache of keeping them in sync, all up to date, and especially when we look at an ecosystem of applications, to be having all these applications compliant to the requirements that are set by our security team, by our ops team. Well, today, I'm happy to say that the ICC will provide, as part of his intelligent brain, the capability of detecting and alerting users when dependencies are out of sync, when not compliant to the requirement of the organization, guaranteeing that all applications are now uniform. But I promise you the secret ingredient. Well, if the ICC, with its intelligent capabilities, and especially all these new functionalities provided on top of Kubernetes, is the secret ingredient to run Node.js in enterprise, and if what is the first step in this new evolution of Node for the enterprise, the secret ingredient for your cacio pepe, that's probably the reason why you're all here until the end of this talk. It's extremely simple. And I can reveal you the problems that it solves, because we didn't mention it. The biggest problem is that when you bring high temperature, boiling temperature to cheese, it usually makes the so-called mozzarella effect, right? It basically glues together. And that's not what you want with a cacio pepe. You want a creamy effect. We in Platformatic have been looking for the secret ingredient for Node. And in order to do that, we had to go back into the basics, first principles, simplicity, and find those elements like what, like the intelligent command center, by all the features that we added to the intelligent command center, and find there the sophistication. Well, for the cacio pepe, the secret ingredient is cornstarch because it blocks the chemical and physical reaction of boiling water with cheese. But if you remember the recipe, a small part of the secret is balancing the ingredient, right? We spoke about how the intelligent command center allows to harmonize, to balance all these different functionalities that usually create headaches in an organization. It's a stabilizer, right? So in order to stabilize the recipe, proportions and measurements are crucial. So for the recipe that we published, you need 4 grams of cornstarch in icy cold water mix and drop it into the blending of the cacio pepe. This one will allow to stop the so-called coagulation of the cheese and get you the best cacio pepe you ever tried. As you can see, simple ingredient, perfectly balanced, generates the best recipe. And as a closing part of this September 24th launch, uh, I just want to go back to the roots where Matteo and myself are coming from. We're both Italians. And one of our Italian symbols is definitely the food. We are in the country of slow food and fast cars, like Massimo Bottura said. And just mentioning one of the so-called maestri of the Italian, modern Italian cuisine, I just want to say that with this new step in platformatic journey, we are bringing tradition in evolution. And with that, I wish you all the best cacio pepe and to enjoy it. I almost forgot. Everything is available today. But now it's time for me to enjoy the cacio pepe and for you to enjoy all the new products that we launched. What? It's fully open source. And the intelligent command center is clearly available for our customers. It's time to enjoy my cacio pepe now. Buono, abbiamo finito?